Thank you so much for joining today and sharing your experience in participating in staff exchanges program. So I will stop my sharing and give you the screen.
I have roughly 50 minutes, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
So I will, okay, so maybe so I will briefly, really in like 2-3 minutes, try to talk like what we do and who am I and the project, but very quickly because I don't think you're really interested in the project itself, and then try to really tell you about our experience and really like real experiences that maybe can help you in judging if it's the kind of project for you or how to navigate that. So very briefly, so I've studied physics. I've my focus. So I did a PhD in machine learning applied to physics, and in Lucerne I'm a professor. So I'm working in scientific machine learning, and we founded TULT in 2018, and is basically a company that does research. So we are a very strange company in a sense because we don't sell a product, we don't sell, I don't know, sensor or software, but we really do only research projects, meaning that with the aim of publishing, because I have this kind of double life in academy and in academia and in industry. So and we work with usually with universities, and we try to bridge like the academic kind of approach to a more like practical approach, or trying to bring the research results to into real life, but somehow we are a strange company because it's because of this, and we do mostly machine learning, we do mostly artificial intelligence, and so on and so forth. Okay. So if anyone has question also afterwards, shoot me an email. I'm happy to talk with you, even to answer your question if you want to know exactly how we did things or how things were for us. You will get the slides, I think, right? So Isabel, I think that, okay, perfect. So the project that we're talking about is called GALATEA, is coordinated by Polito, is the Politecnico di Torino in Torino, of course, by Professor De Rio. And the idea is here is to work on a digital twin for infant nutrition, basically trying to find a specific receipts, let's say, for children that might have nutritional deficiencies or have maybe intolerances and so on. And so the GALATEA is a project, is actually quite a large consortium. We have 6 industrial partners, us included, and 5 academic partners. It's really spread around Europe. We have 2 in Switzerland, including SUPSI, and then we have Spain, Italy, Greece, and so on. And there are like many competencies. So the project is really interesting if you work in research, because we go from machine learning, that's what we bring, but you have like, like bioinformatics, you have chemical analysis, of clinical expertise, we have hospitals, we have like bioreactors experiences, and so on and so forth. And the idea is really like to develop kind of a platform for designing infant nutrition for children with special needs. And if someone is interested, can follow, like we are on LinkedIn and the usual marketing stuff that one is to do, just to so feel free to go there on ask us if you are interested in the field. So now those were some of the questions that we discussed with Isabel, and I'm so just to give you my really like our experience. So motivation to participate. So the first thing you have to know is that, as the kind of the title of the project type says, is a knowledge exchange program. That means that the goal is really like to for your company, maybe if you're a company, or even if you are in academia, right, to go and learn something new. So to work on something that maybe you haven't worked on before, or that you have worked on before, but you want to work with someone that is more experienced on that. Okay, to give you an example, so for example, with the company, and we publish we do lots of things also in food technology, in food quality. For example, we did a lot on olive oil, and we have participated in a previous project, exactly the same kind, where we spend, for example, time in Granada with oil producers. We spend time in Sicily with the university there, really profiting from their expertise on how the oil is prepared, how the olive oils is processed, and so on. And we actually have worked on that, learning that kind of stuff. So one of the other reasons is really to create a network of people and entities, universities or industry that work on the same topic, because that's really important. Because like I'm convinced that exchange of knowledge is really important for research to proceed. And so this is really like it's really useful to find really good partners that knows more than you on a specific topic. Okay. So and the main benefits of what you have to do also, but you have to know and to kind of let's say, have realistic expectations. So what it means is that, for example, if you are in industry, let's say you are, I don't know, we work, for example, with a company in Italy, it's called DNA Phone. They create the sensors that can actually analyze olive oil. But so if you are a company and think, okay, I can participate, I'll get some money, and I can maybe optimize my product, that's not what you're gonna manage. So that's not gonna work. Because the idea is that maybe you send someone or you go yourself to in another place and learn something more, and maybe your research should proceed. So it's not a project for companies, not something that you can use, let's say, to, I don't know, optimize your product or create a new product. You can work on the technology, so you can do technology development, meaning that you can build, proof of concept, you can build a sensor and apply it on the field and so on and so forth. But the idea is really hard to in those kind of projects to work on, let's say, on a specific product or to optimize a software piece or a website or stuff like that. Okay. And so I think for us, the main benefits, and I'm talking about both academic and companies, is really like, first of all, you find network of people that works in exactly the same field. So it's really, really, really nice. I mean, we have many friends now that we, after the project, that we still see and we still work with. We've published many papers with even after the project is finished and so on. That's the main benefit, and you learn a lot. So you can really profit from the research that you can do. What you have to know is things does not happen by themselves. So you really have to have an active role, depending on what you want to do and depending on how you want to profit. And you have to really, really set an agenda for what you want to achieve, a long-term agenda. So what is really helpful is saying that, okay, in the first year we want to do that and that. In the second year, maybe you want to publish a white paper or a paper, or you want to reach a point in the technology development that your technology does that and that and that. You really have to actively push for that, because usually our experience is that there is some coordination, but it's not like other European funded projects where there is a coordinator that organizes schools, organize meetings and so on and so forth. I'll formulate it this way, you're a bit on your own. That means that if you don't do anything, usually nobody comes and say, oh, I mean, at a certain point, the coordinator will come and say, oh, you need to do the secondments and stuff like that. But there is no one that set the agenda for you. So you really have to sit down and think about, okay, so what do I want to get out of it? And an especially important point is also look at the partners, look at what they've done, look at how they work, and try to go there and see which partner is working well. Or is working, let's say, in the same way that you do, or that you can kind of work together, because it's not always obvious that every partner is working the same way. So sometimes you find partners and everything click, and then you can really get things out. And sometimes there are partners that, that it simply doesn't work. So the way of working is really different. Especially maybe important is for startups and companies that usually the idea is that startups and company goes to academic partner and vice versa. So there is this kind of exchange, right, Isabel? I think it's still the rule that you cannot, like, company cannot go to another company, right? They have to go to an academic partner and vice versa, right? At least that's what the rule that we have used so far. But maybe you can comment on that later.
Now you catch me in something. I know within academics it has to be interdisciplinary, but between companies I will quickly check for afterwards.
Okay, no, because they kind of we have like at least what they told us is that usually is a bit frowned upon if a company goes to a company. You want to do this kind of inter-exchange between academia and companies. So our rule so far has been we have gone to academia and academia has come to us, but we have not exchanged within companies or you say within academia. Having said that, what it's important for a company to understand is that academia has very different goals than a company. So usually an academic partner wants to publish papers, wants to, wants to do research, present stuff at conferences, and so on and so forth, while a company usually wants to develop a technology. So one thing that really helps is really like sitting together at the beginning and say, okay, you know what, I'll come maybe for this year, we plan so many secondments, we would like to do that and that. Let's find something that works for everyone, okay? Because otherwise, it can be a surprise for companies that are not used to work with academia, just as an additional maybe thing. So my suggestion is there are great projects, but you really have to take the lead, sit down and think about what you want to get out of the project and do that like year by year so that at the end you know what you get out, okay? So potential challenges that we have seen in the past years, one of the challenges that, as I mentioned, you really need to find a good partner that works with you. Unfortunately, there are always, and I'm speaking generally here, but there are always partners that don't do much. And it can happen that, like a partner participate and then you send people there or you go there and then they have their own thing to do. And then they speak with you once or twice in a month. And then after a month you've been there, nothing has really happened. You have worked on your own thing and they work on their own thing, but there was not really like this kind of exchange. And that can happen. So, one way of avoiding this is really like setting expectation at the beginning, saying, I will come, but I want to do that and that and that and that. And at the end of the month, I want to have that and that and that and that, so that you can actually judge. And then you have to test it a bit. And very often you will always find partners that really like wants to do something. And those are the partners that you should work with because that's where the kind of things moves on. So one challenge is really like to find the right partner for you when you do secondments and really like setting up expectations for everyone. The other thing maybe, because I remember I was discussing with Isabel and Isabel told me that there are some concerns sometimes in company that there is lots of overhead or lots of management, let's say, right, Isabel? We discussed a bit about the fear that you will have to do lots of work. So in our experience, the management part is negligible. So it is really small. So there is not something that will occupy you in any, let's say, well, you will almost not notice. The challenge is that very often, so you have to have someone hired, right? So, and you send someone. So you cannot hire someone with the money of the project. So the people should be already hired and you give the money on top so that the people can actually spend 1 month there. So maybe rent a place or, eat and live there. And one way of doing that, very often academic partners and also companies send young people, for example, PhD students or postdocs, right? That, for example, in Italy, I was telling Isabel, in Italy, there is this requirement when you do a PhD to spend a certain amount of months abroad. So that means that's a perfect condition because you can send someone and give them more money than the university in Italy. I mean, you get not really much for a PhD. So that's the kind of an ideal situation where you send PhD students. Now, PhD students are great. I love working with them, but they require supervision, meaning that if you want to get something out of the project and if you want to really be in the driving seat, you really need to do lots of supervision, meaning that the experienced people in research, the people that have experience in the technology development, in the technology you're working on, should really work with the young people in that kind. So that means like weekly meetings, that means like reviews of the results, that means that also like senior people should go and do some secondments, because then you can really set up the agenda for the research with the senior people from the other side, and you really have to follow up. So the amount of time is not, let's say, let me phrase it this way. It's not only you send someone and you forget about it, and then after 3 months, someone comes back and you have something. It never happens. So if you send someone 3 months, you have to plan to be involved for the 3 months. You have to meet people weekly online. I mean, now it's very easy. You have to visit the partners. You have to really set an agenda, and you have really to push to have what you want at the end. That's something that even for companies, so I mean, in academia is very important, but it's in company where you have like you have to, you don't have so much money that you can. It's not like academia where, okay, I send a PhD student, and if nothing happens, okay, bad luck, but nobody will tell me anything. I mean, a bit, so I'm formulating a bit provocatively, but in industry, you are much more, I mean, you have to be much more aware that if you send someone there, is someone that will not work for you for 3 months. It will do something else. So you are paying someone to do something else. And usually as a company, you want to have something in return. And to have something in return, you really have to push it and to be active. Isabel, how much time do I still have? Because sorry, I forgot to keep track.
No worries. We have now almost 15 minutes, but they're
Okay.
so interesting, so you can go on for 5 more minutes if you want.
No, but 2 or 3 minutes. So maybe the other thing is that why would you join also in the future? So this is our this is our actually third project of this kind. We have done one on olive oil that is finished in May. Then and then we have started two. One is GALATEA, and the other is called Smart Olive. And the nice thing is maybe also something that is a consequence of doing this project. This project is, let's say, a second project that came from the first one that we did. So similar partners, at least the consortium is partly the same. We know each other already. We have worked already together. We have published paper together. And so we really can start setting an agenda that we work together, because we are continuing the work. Okay. So that's also something nice, because once like one of the main challenge of European project, I think or getting into European project is really finding the right consortium. And usually the best way is be friend with someone that is really good at writing projects and that writes 5 or 6 projects a year, so that they win at least one. And once you are in this kind of circle, right, you get asked, because very often what happens is that and maybe Isabel, you know better than me, but what I've been told is that it's important for a project to have a consortium that is not only academic, but has like this kind of mix between companies and academic partners. And it's really hard to find companies that have experience in European projects and knows how to do that and knows how to do research. If you are one of those companies and you have done a few and you are in this you have this network of people that do this project, you start getting asked a lot. So, but again, it's not something that is for free. So it's not free money that you get and then you can do your own thing and then, I can finance my startup in this way because then I have some money to pay someone and we can do our thing. It's really not the case. So it's you should really think very hard on how. So supposing that you are working on technology, how the partner can help me, or how can we proceed with the research with the partners and so on. So you have really to set up your agenda in this way. So maybe it's useful if people have questions. Otherwise, I mean, I can continue, but at a certain point.
Yeah, thank you so much. You have such a rich experience with 3 staff exchanges projects. And yes, I quickly checked about the secondment directions. It's a bit tricky how it's formulated in the guide.
I know. It's
so it says in the guide for everyone. So what is mandatory that it has to be across country. So you cannot have secondments within Switzerland.
Right.
And it says that it should be made. to have it international, and they understand international as member state associate country with third countries. So any country that is not associated. And here Switzerland used to be third country, but it's no longer. So it's also that many use it also to have knowledge exchange with other continents, so really far off. And this can also be a good instrument. In your case of GALATEA, it is not. And therefore they say it is either international or and then intersectoral.
Yeah,
so
but what I can maybe, Isabel, sorry, just as a suggestion for people, if you have, let's suppose that there is no rule and you could go everywhere, I would still strongly suggest for a company to go to an academic partner, because the academic partner is always like will give you more back, because first of all you will have like contact with lots of researchers, professors, students, right? And you can do more. Usually the problem of going to a company is that the company is always like under pressure, and they have to do their own job, and they don't have so much time to stay with you or follow you. So what happens often is that I've heard that from several projects that especially PhD students are sent to companies, and they are given a place to sit and maybe a monitor, and but there is no this. I mean, they don't have they don't get so much learning out of it, or because company are always under pressure. And so as a company, I would anyway suggest to go to an academic partner if you can choose, just as a...
Exactly. I think it has to be very important. It's important to show in the proposal these secondments are meaningful and they add value for the participants. So I just wanted to quickly insert this rule, and maybe we can stop the recording. Thank you so much already for giving this.